Hello and welcome to Fossil Arcade. When I first started this channel, one of the first topics I looked into was the Street Fighter series on Game Boy. In the 90s, playing true arcade games at home wasn't possible on most hardware, and while people craved the chance to play their favourite cabinet titles anywhere, Game Boy ports of Street Fighter are an example of the struggle players faced due to the limited technology of the time. Now in 2018, things have finally come full circle, as Capcom celebrate 30 years of Street Fighter by porting the series yet again with the 30th Anniversary Collection, available on Nintendo Switch, a portable console capable of playing arcade-perfect ports. Far from the gimped Game Boy version of Street Fighter 2, for a relatively similar price today, people can pick up 12 Street Fighter games in one package, playing them anytime, anywhere, with anyone. This could be a good entry point for casual players looking to improve their fighting fundamentals, whilst veteran players can look forward to recreating Moment 37 anytime they feel like it. Usually I only talk about hardware I consider fossilised, so it's odd to be reviewing a Nintendo Switch game, but for old school Street Fighter, I'll make an exception. The 30th Anniversary Collection contains all 12 main series titles, from Street Fighter all the way up to Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. As a main series collection, side projects like Street Fighter EX or Street Fighter the movie the game are not included. There's also a museum mode to work through, with design documents and character art to pore over. The games are what's important though, and some people may already be apprehensive of a Switch version, given the D-pad found on the Joy-Cons is not the traditional plus shape. Its disconnected buttons can make the traditional input a little tricky. It's also worth noting that arcade stick options for Switch owners are extremely limited, and what is available is very expensive. Other system owners will find a far wider range of options for much less cost. However, I feel for the sake of playing on the move, using the thumbstick is a fair compromise for most players. It certainly doesn't bother me. It won't be how everyone wants to play, but Switch players who demand a true D-pad will probably already have their eye on a Pro Controller anyway. There's even the hoary D-pad Joy-Con, which while limited, does provide that traditional input as well. With each game being an arcade-perfect port, only the character selections and mode options available in those games are present here. If you played Alpha 3 on Dreamcast, don't expect to find all the console exclusive content here. The trade-off is that this port is exactly as it was in the arcade, but now in full HD. Hyper Fighting, Super Turbo, Alpha 3 and Third Strike have also been upgraded for global online play, and training modes for each game have been enabled. With the Switch version, you never have to miss a training opportunity or the chance to face off with an opponent. From my own experience, I bumped into fellow Smash 3DS players and had battles with complete strangers from London all the way to Beijing, so I imagine gameplay like that could become all the more common, with it being so easy to share and play the Switch with anybody you meet. The 4 online titles are really the meat and potatoes of this set. To the layman, Hyper Fighting and Super Turbo may appear very similar, but these games actually ran on different generations of arcade hardware. When it comes to online, there are plenty of options for connecting with other fighters, including casual and ranked, which match you with players based on your choice of game, arcade online, which interrupts your progress of arcade mode with a queue of online opponents, and then there's lobbies, which lets you flow freely between all 4 games with either friends or strangers. As of this review, the Nintendo Switch Online has given me slight cause for concern, as more often than not, matches are almost unplayably laggy. I'm hoping this is just launch day jitters, and it'll smooth out in the coming days. That being said, I've had absolutely no issues on PlayStation 4 in this area. Truthfully, I've only been using the PS4 for capturing footage more easily than on Switch, but it's actually provided a very stark contrast between the 2 online services. I suppose you get what you pay for, while Switch Online is still free. I have had some satisfying connections, and I'm still confident it'll improve soon. Hopefully. Alpha 3 is currently my favourite of the set, taking everything which distanced the Alpha series from its roots and bringing the classic style of gameplay back with its 3 isms. The Alpha series also represents a graphical leap ahead for Street Fighter, with animations that still stun even now. Of course, it's the Street Fighter 3 series which takes the crown for visual style, with perhaps the most intricate visual execution of any sprite-based game, certainly so in the fighting genre. 3 made waves upon release, leaving almost every known character behind in favour of bringing in a mass of new faces and playstyles. It was a bold move and understandably created a divide among series followers. Competitive players loved it, whilst more casual fans were alienated by the big changes. But over the years, reverence and nostalgia for this sub-series has grown and grown. Hopefully this collection gives the game some more time in the mainstream spotlight. But what's the bottom line with such a large number of games? What about the paradox of choice? Are you going to have an anxiety attack every time you see this 12-game menu staring you down? Honestly, no. Because while everybody has their favourites, most people are going to settle on 1 or 2 of those 4 online games. Which raises the next question, is it good value for money to pay for 12 games when you're only going to use 4 of them? Unfortunately, Capcom has your hands tied, as a larger compilation justifies a higher price tag, regardless of which version you're personally drawn to. And this series commands a high brand tax, with this collection boasting a recommended retail price as high as any other newly released game. Of course, you need to take the Switch tax into account too, as producing cartridges supposedly increases the cost of any given game around 33% higher than the same title on disc. Luckily, Amazon slashed the Switch price tag to around £34. If you compare this to the cost of Hamster Corporation's arcade archive ports of multiple classic SNK fighters, they sell for £6.29 a piece. Apply that price tag to each of the Street Fighter games here, and even £45 on Switch is a comparable bargain. But although I love being able to hop in and out of each game in this series, I think the price is artificially inflated by the inclusion of titles most people would pass on given the option, and I think Capcom knows that. I'm not saying hard work hasn't gone into these ports. The museum mode alone is an example of loving fan service, but I'd rather pick up the 4 online games individually for less cost if I could. That's right, I'm criticising this collection for being too complete, but that's just how I feel. I'm not even going to talk about how Capcom released Ultra Street Fighter 2 for £35 just 12 months ago, but I bet there's more than a few customers with buyer's remorse right now. Additionally, pre-orders of the 30th Anniversary Collection for Xbox One, PlayStation 4 and Steam received a free download copy of Ultra Street Fighter 4. Switch pre-orders received nothing. To be fair, I don't expect them to port an entirely separate game for nothing as a pre-order incentive, especially as I already covered the nature of having 12 games to choose from already. But any imbalance there is has also been placated by the inclusion of a Switch exclusive tournament battle mode in Super Turbo. A local only mode where players can wirelessly link 4 Switches to recreate classic arcade tournaments, but you still need 4 systems and 4 copies of the game to do this. Unless you're running an active competitive community, most people aren't going to use this when sharing Joy-Cons is far cheaper. And keep in mind, lag is entirely possible on Nintendo Switch local wireless as well. Rare as it may be, this is a frustrating issue which isn't likely to change until a hardware revision.
Okay. Alex's assist boy.
I'm okay.
How is Pikachu using those rocks? What move is that?
Rock Smash.
Okay.
Yo, what's up with the lag though?
Yeah, that's bad. Yo. The lag was unfun.
That was like very frustrating.
It certainly feels like the politics of this release get in the way of what's good about it. This is a fully inclusive set, with everything you could hope for as a fan of classic Street Fighter. These games play perfectly, portably. I never imagined this would be a thing, even when I was talking about Street Fighter on Game Boy just under 2 years ago. But you have to look at the negatives with this kind of release. It's all too easy to get taken in just by nostalgia. It's certainly a mixed bag, but if you love playing Street Fighter, none of that will take away from the enjoyment you'll get from revisiting these games, ported over with the highest level of care and attention. And with the online included, these are without a doubt the definitive versions you'll want to play. Let's just hope the lag which I've experienced is a launch issue and not a long-term issue. Looking past the usual industry criticisms, this is a high quality release with few detractors in the core gameplay. It's also another Switch release which the mere concept of would have blown people away just a short time ago. Thanks for watching.